The first note. The first time Dr. Sarah Chen heard the stars dying, she was analyzing quantum frequency data in her underground laboratory at CERN. The patterns scrolling across her holographic display weren't just random noise. They were musical. The quantum signatures pulsed with a rhythm that made her fingers twitch, muscle memory from 2 decades of piano training trying to find keys that weren't there. Sarah pushed away from her desk, rubbing her eyes. She'd been staring at Betelgeuse's death throes for 18 hours straight. The massive star had been behaving erratically for months, but the quantum signatures it was emitting defied all known physics. Her colleagues had written them off as sensor artifacts, but Sarah knew better. She'd spent her entire career studying quantum harmonics, and these patterns were too precise, too structured to be random. She pulled up the raw data again, this time routing it through an audio converter. The lab filled with an ethereal humming that made the hair on her arms stand up. The sound was haunting, beautiful, and terribly wrong. It reminded her of the Chopin nocturne she played at her last concert before choosing physics over music, but distorted, like a piano being played underwater. "You're not supposed to do that," came a voice from the doorway. Dr. Marcus Way, her research partner, was leaning against the frame with 2 cups of coffee. The board specifically said no more creative interpretations of the data. Sarah accepted the coffee without looking away from her display. "The board isn't here at 3 a.m. And they're wrong, Marcus. Listen to this." She isolated one of the frequency patterns and played it back. "That's not random quantum noise. That's a sequence, a repetition with subtle variations. It's almost like..." "Like what?" "The star is playing music." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Sarah, you've been down here too long. Betelgeuse is dying. That's all. Stars do that sometimes. Not like this." Sarah pulled up another dataset, this one from a pulsar 3,000 light-years away. "Look at the harmonic overlay. The same pattern, just at a different frequency. And here," she brought up readings from 6 other stellar objects. "They're all playing variations of the same thing. It's like they're trying to harmonize." Marcus set his coffee down and leaned in closer, his skepticism giving way to curiosity. "That's actually impossible. Quantum signatures don't synchronize across light years. The math doesn't work, unless the math we know is wrong." Sarah's fingers flew across the holographic interface, combining the signals. The lab filled with an otherworldly chorus. "What if we're hearing something fundamental? A property of space-time we never noticed because we weren't listening for it." Before Marcus could respond, every piece of equipment in the lab began to shriek. Displays flickered with impossible readings as the quantum sensors overloaded. The coffee cups vibrated off the desk, shattering on the floor. And through it all, a new sound emerged, a pure, crystal-clear note that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The lights went out, plunging them into darkness broken only by the glow of emergency panels. When power returned 30 seconds later, Sarah's display showed something that made her breath catch. A new quantum signature, stronger than anything they'd recorded before, was approaching Earth. Its pattern was complex, structured, and unmistakably artificial. "Still think I'm imagining things?" Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper. Marcus stared at the readings. "I think you just proved First Contact is going to need a musician." The next 48 hours were chaos. Sarah's discovery went up the chain of command, from CERN to the UN Security Council in record time. Every radio telescope on Earth was redirected to track the approaching signal. Military forces went on high alert, and in the middle of it all, Sarah found herself trying to explain quantum harmonics to a room full of generals and politicians who could barely understand basic physics. "It's like this," she said, fighting to keep her patience as she addressed the emergency session. "Everything in the universe vibrates at a quantum level. We've known this for centuries. What we didn't know is that these vibrations can form patterns, music, essentially, when properly analyzed. The patterns we're detecting aren't random. They're a language, or at least part of one. And you believe this? Music is trying to tell us something. The UN Secretary General leaned forward, her expression grave. I believe it's been trying to tell us something for a very long time. We just weren't listening properly. Sarah brought up a visualization of the approaching signal. This is different. It's structured, complex, and it's responding to changes in our own quantum field. Whatever it is, it knows we're here. A military advisor cleared his throat. And what makes you think it's not a threat? If these signals can affect quantum fields, they could be a weapon. Sarah shook her head. Because it's beautiful. She played back the signal, watching as several people in the room sat up straighter, their eyes widening. This isn't random noise or a weapon. It's art. Mathematics and music woven together in a way we've never seen before. Whoever sent this wants to communicate, not destroy. The signal arrived 3 days later, materializing in high Earth orbit as a ship that defied physics and imagination. It looked like frozen music, crystalline structures that shifted and flowed, catching sunlight and transforming it into colors human eyes had never seen before. And as it descended through the atmosphere, it began to sing. Every electronic device on Earth picked up the song. Car radios, phones, quantum computers, all of them carried the same haunting melody. It wasn't sound in any conventional sense, but rather pure mathematics expressed through quantum harmonics. And Sarah Chen, standing in her lab with tears streaming down her face, was the first human to understand what it meant. Hello, the song said in the language of universal constants and perfect fifths. We've been looking for someone who could hear us. The ship landed in a field outside Geneva, melting the morning frost with its quantum resonance. Sarah was there, along with a hastily assembled first contact team. As they watched, a section of the crystalline hull became transparent, and a figure stepped out that challenged everything humanity thought they knew about life. The alien, Velar, as they would later learn, was living music given form. Their body was a complex interference pattern of quantum waves, held together by mathematics humanity was centuries from understanding. When they moved, reality rippled around them like air above hot pavement, and when they spoke, it was with a voice that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Dr. Sarah Chen, Velar said, their form shifting through colors that didn't exist. You heard our warning. You understood what the dying stars were trying to tell you. Sarah stepped forward, her scientific training warring with wonder. Warning? What are they warning us about? Velar's form dimmed slightly, their quantum harmonics shifting to a minor key. The universe is falling out of tune, Dr. Chen. Reality itself is losing its harmony. We have traveled between the stars for 10,000 years, searching for species that could help us restore the cosmic resonance before it's too late. And you think we can help? Sarah asked, her mind racing with implications. Why us? Because your species is unique, Velar replied. You understand both the mathematics of creation and the art of music. You can calculate quantum states and compose symphonies. You are what we have been searching for. Beings who can bridge the gap between physics and music, between science and art. Behind Sarah, she heard Marcus mutter, no pressure or anything. Velar's form brightened. There is always pressure, Dr. Wei. The universe is vast, but time is short. The cosmic dissonance grows stronger every day. Will you help us restore the harmony? Sarah looked at the alien ship, its crystalline structure humming with quantum music. She thought about the dying stars and their desperate songs, about the mathematics that underpinned reality itself, and about the piano she'd left behind to pursue physics. Maybe this was why she'd never been able to choose between music and science. Maybe she'd been preparing for this moment her entire life. Yes, she said, and felt the quantum field around them shift in response. Teach us how to hear the music of the spheres. Velar's form pulsed with what might have been relief. Then let us begin. The symphony awaits, and we have much to learn from each other. As the sun rose over Geneva, humanity took its first step toward becoming part of something greater than itself, a cosmic orchestra playing the song of existence itself. And in her heart, Sarah Chen finally understood why she'd never been able to give up either of her passions. The universe needed both, just as it needed both order and chaos, science and art, physics and music. The first movement of the greatest symphony ever composed was about to begin. The dissonance. The quantum resonance chamber looked like a cross between a concert hall and a particle accelerator. Crystalline structures, gifts from Wheeler's people, lined the walls of the repurposed CERN facility, each one humming with frequencies that existed somewhere between sound and mathematics. In the center, Sarah Chen stood before what appeared to be a conductor's podium. Though instead of a baton, she manipulated quantum fields with gestures tracked by Wheeler's technology. The harmony is deteriorating faster than predicted, Wheeler said, their form shimmering with worried undertones of indigo. They floated beside Sarah, their quantum pattern creating interference ripples in the air. "Show me again what you discovered." Sarah pulled up the latest data with a wave of her hand. The chamber filled with a visualization of quantum frequencies from across the galaxy, a three-dimensional symphony of light and mathematics. But there were discordant notes now, places where the music of reality itself seemed to be breaking down. "It's like entropy," Sarah explained, "but it's affecting fundamental forces we thought were immutable. The quantum foam itself is becoming unstable." She highlighted a particular section of space near Alpha Centauri. 3 days ago, this region was in perfect resonance. Now look at it. The visualization showed something that should have been impossible. Space-time itself was developing microscopic tears, places where the basic constants of physics were beginning to unravel. The quantum music from that region had become a cacophony of competing frequencies. Marcus Way burst into the chamber, tablet in hand, his usually composed demeanor shattered. "Sarah, Wheeler, you need to see this. It's happening here now too." The data on his tablet showed readings from quantum sensors around Earth. The planet's own quantum field was showing signs of instability, tiny fluctuations that were growing stronger by the hour. In some places, the laws of physics were beginning to flutter like a stretched rubber band. "How long?" Sarah asked, her voice tight. "At the current rate of degradation," Marcus ran the calculations, "maybe 6 months before we see macroscopic effects, a year before total systemic collapse." Wheeler's form pulsed with a frequency that made everyone's teeth ache. "This is happening far too quickly. Something is accelerating the breakdown." They turned to Sarah. "We must begin the full harmonization immediately. Are your people ready?" Sarah thought about the ongoing global debates, the political resistance, the conspiracy theories that had exploded across social media since Wheeler's arrival. "Ready or not, we're out of time." The plan was audacious, perhaps impossible. Wheeler's people had discovered that conscious observation and interaction with quantum fields could stabilize them. Essentially, the universe needed an audience and performers to maintain its quantum coherence. They had spent millennia searching for other species capable of perceiving and manipulating these fields, building a galactic network of observers and resonators. But Earth was different. Humans weren't just observers. They were creators, artists. They didn't just hear the music. They could compose new songs. Wheeler believed this might be the key to not just stabilizing the quantum fields, but strengthening them. The problem was convincing humanity to participate. "The United States Senate has blocked funding for the Resonance Chamber program," Marcus reported, scrolling through news updates. "Russia and China are demanding exclusive control over any chambers in their territories. The EU is still debating whether Wheeler's presence violates some obscure regulation about foreign technological imports. While they debate, reality dies," Wheeler said. Their form flickered momentarily, a lapse in quantum coherence that they'd never shown before. "We don't have time for politics." Sarah stared at the quantum visualization, watching the discord spread. Then she did something that made both Marcus and Wheeler turn to her sharply. She began to laugh. "We've been approaching this all wrong," she said. "We've been trying to convince governments, institutions, the power structures. But that's not where humanity's creative force lives. She pulled up a global communication interface. We need to reach the artists, the musicians, the dreamers. We need to make this a movement, not a program. What followed was either brilliant improvisation or desperate madness. Sarah released the quantum frequency data to the public, but not as scientific papers or technical documents. Instead, she released it as music, raw, haunting melodies that anyone could hear. She included simple visualization tools that let people see the quantum harmonies around them. The response was beyond anything they could have imagined. Within days, musicians around the world began incorporating the quantum frequencies into their compositions. Artists created virtual reality experiences based on the quantum visualizations. Composers started experimenting with what they called quantum jazz, improvised pieces that actually influenced local quantum fields. But not everyone was celebrating. As the quantum harmonies spread across the internet and airwaves, strange phenomena began to manifest. People reported hearing songs in their dreams, melodies that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. In some places, reality began to shimmer like a heat mirage, the quantum instability becoming visible to the naked eye. And then the accidents started. The first occurred in a small music studio in Tokyo, where a group of musicians experimenting with quantum frequencies accidentally created a resonance cascade. The studio, along with a city block, shifted partially out of phase with normal space-time. 20 people found themselves existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. This is precisely why these experiments need to be controlled, the head of the Global Science Council argued in an emergency session. We're dealing with fundamental forces of reality here, not some new music genre. But Sarah knew control was an illusion. The quantum discord was spreading too quickly for methodical, regulated responses. Humanity needed to learn, adapt, and create faster than any institutional framework would allow. Elyria, watching the chaos unfold, made an observation that chilled Sarah to her core. Your species creates beauty even in discord, they said. But I fear that quality may destroy you before it saves you. The turning point came 3 months into what the media had dubbed the quantum cultural revolution. A collective of classical musicians, electronic artists, and quantum physicists in Vienna discovered that certain combinations of human music and quantum frequencies could actually stabilize local spacetime. They couldn't explain how or why it worked. It seemed to defy even Weyler's understanding of quantum mechanics. It's not just about the mathematics, Sarah explained to a packed auditorium at CERN. It's about intention, creativity, the indefinable human element that turns noise into music. We're not just observing the quantum fields, we're dancing with them. But as more humans began to interact with the quantum frequencies, some began to change. Reports surfaced of musicians who could see quantum probabilities, artists who could manipulate local reality through their work. The boundary between observer and observed, between art and physics, was beginning to blur. Marcus found Sarah in the resonance chamber late one night, studying the latest transformation cases. We're changing, he said simply. The question is, into what? Sarah looked at her hands, which had started to shimmer faintly when she conducted quantum harmonies. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the universe isn't just falling out of tune. It's trying to evolve. And it needs us to help it find a new song. Elyria, who had been unusually quiet lately, finally spoke. There is something we haven't told you about our own evolution, about what happens when a species becomes too attuned to the quantum harmonies. And as they explained, Sarah understood that saving reality might come at a price none of them had expected. The universe's music demanded more than just listeners. It demanded transformation. The question was whether humanity was ready to pay that price. The quantum discord continued to spread, and with it, the first notes of humanity's most important composition began to play. The second movement was ending, but the symphony was far from over. The symphony begins. The first time Sarah Chen saw her own quantum structure, she nearly lost herself in the patterns. Her consciousness stretched across probability waves, existing in multiple states simultaneously. It was beautiful, terrifying, and impossible to describe in human language. Only the quantum harmonics could capture the experience, a melody that existed in 11 dimensions. The transformation is progressing faster than anticipated, Wheeler observed, their own quantum form resonating with concern. Your species' adaptability is unprecedented. Sarah watched the shimmering patterns that had once been her hands. Like many others who worked closely with the quantum frequencies, her physical form was becoming less solid, more like Wheeler's, a complex interference pattern of waves and possibilities, held together by music and mathematics. "How many?" she asked, her voice carrying harmonic overtones that made the air ripple. "Globally, almost 3 million have begun the transition," Marcus answered, consulting his tablet. Unlike Sarah, he showed no signs of quantum transformation, though his eyes now held an odd shimmer when he looked at quantum frequencies directly. Most are musicians, artists, physicists, people working directly with the harmonics. But we're seeing spontaneous transformations now too. The quantum resonance chamber around them had evolved as well. The crystalline structures now grew like living things, responding to the emotions and quantum states of those nearby. The entire facility had become a vast instrument, playing the music of reality itself. But not everyone was embracing the change. Reports of violence against the transformed were increasing. Religious groups declared them no longer human. Governments debated whether they should have the same rights as normal people. Some called for quarantine, others for study, and a frightening few for elimination. "They're afraid," Sarah said, watching news feeds showing protests outside quantum research centers. "And I understand why. We're becoming something they don't recognize." Wheeler's form pulsed with a frequency that Sarah now recognized as sadness. "It was the same for my people, long ago. The transition period is always difficult. Some will resist, unable to accept that evolution doesn't always follow expected paths." A quantum alert rippled through the chamber. Another anomaly forming, this one in downtown Geneva. Sarah felt it like a discordant note in an otherwise perfect symphony. Reality was becoming increasingly unstable, tears forming in the quantum fabric of space-time itself. "We need to move faster," she said, pulling up global quantum frequency data. "The breakdown is accelerating. We have weeks at most before critical failure begins." The plan they had developed was ambitious and terrifying. Quantum resonance chambers had been constructed at strategic points around the globe, places where the Earth's natural quantum field was strongest. Each would serve as a node in a vast network, a planetary-scale instrument capable of generating stabilizing harmonics. But it would take more than technology. It would require humanity to quite literally change its tune. "The public demonstration is ready," Marcus announced. Every major orchestra, every significant musical venue, thousands of individual musicians, all prepared to play the quantum symphony simultaneously. Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of what they were about to attempt. "And the warnings have been distributed about the potential effects." "Yes, though I doubt anyone truly understands what it will mean." Marcus hesitated. "Sarah, are we doing the right thing? Changing humanity without their full consent?" "The universe isn't asking for consent," she replied, watching her quantum form shimmer. "It's change or extinction. At least this way, we have some control over how we change." The global concert was scheduled for the winter solstice, a time when Earth's quantum field naturally reached its highest resonance. As the hour approached, Sarah felt the anticipation building in the quantum frequencies themselves, as if reality was holding its breath. Wheeler had been unusually quiet, their form becoming increasingly transparent. Finally, they spoke. "There is something else you should know about why my people really came here." Sarah felt a chill in her quantum structure. "I thought you came to help us stop the breakdown." "Yes and no." Wheeler's form flickered. "We came because we are dying. Our species has become too quantum, too disconnected from physical reality. We are fading into pure mathematics. We hope that humanity's creativity, your ability to merge art and science, might show us a way to maintain our connection to the physical world. The revelation hit Sarah like a quantum cascade. You're not just teaching us, you're trying to learn from us. Your species creates art from chaos, finds patterns in noise, and turns mathematical principles into music. You may be able to do what we could not. Find a balance between the quantum and the physical. Before Sarah could respond, the first notes of the global quantum symphony began to play. Across the planet, millions of human voices and instruments joined with quantum harmonics in a piece of music unlike anything in human history. It was mathematics made audible, physics transformed into art, the sound of reality itself singing. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The quantum field around Earth began to stabilize. But something else was happening too. People everywhere, not just those already showing signs of transformation, began to perceive the quantum layer of reality. Some panicked, others were entranced, but all were changed. In the resonance chamber, Sarah watched as her own quantum form began to stabilize into something new. Neither purely physical nor purely quantum, but a harmony of both. Around her, the air filled with shimmering patterns as others underwent similar transformations. Marcus, who had remained stubbornly unchanged until now, gasped as his own quantum structure became visible to him. "It's beautiful," he whispered, watching patterns of probability dance across his skin. Wheeler's form had also changed, becoming more solid, more present. "You've done it," they said, wonder in their harmonic voice. "You've found a way to exist in both states simultaneously, neither purely wave nor purely particle, but a true quantum superposition." The symphony continued, growing stronger as more people joined in, each adding their own unique vibration to the whole. The quantum tears in reality began to heal, knitting themselves back together with new patterns, stronger than before. But as Sarah watched the transformation unfold, she realized this was just the beginning. Humanity wasn't just changing, it was becoming something entirely new. A species that could perceive and manipulate the quantum realm while remaining grounded in the physical world. A bridge between realities. The question was, what would they become when the symphony ended? As the music reached a crescendo, Sarah felt something shift in the quantum field. A new frequency, something neither human nor like Wheeler's people. The third movement was ending, but the transformation it had begun was far from complete. The universe held new mysteries, and humanity was finally ready to hear them. Crescendo. The quantum storm over New York rippled with impossible colors, a maelstrom of collapsing probability waves that threatened to tear reality apart. From the observation deck of the Empire State Building, Sarah Chen watched as transformed humans flew through the chaos, their quantum forms leaving trails of crystalline music in their wake. They were trying to stabilize the anomaly, but this one was different, stronger, more chaotic. "It's not working," Marcus said beside her, his partially transformed body flickering between states. "The harmonics aren't containing it anymore." Sarah could feel it too. The quantum symphony they'd created was losing its power, like a song played too many times until it loses meaning. 3 months after the global transformation, and reality was fighting back. Wheeler materialized beside them, their form now a striking blend of quantum waves and physical matter, a result of their own unexpected evolution. "The universe seeks equilibrium," they said, their voice carrying undertones of cosmic frequencies. "What we have done, it disrupts patterns that have existed since the beginning of time." Below them, the streets of Manhattan shimmered like a mirage. People moved through quantum shadows of themselves, existing in multiple states simultaneously. Some had adapted well to their new perceptions, learning to navigate both physical and quantum realities. Others struggled, lost between states, their minds unable to reconcile the dual existence. "We need to evacuate the city," Marcus said, checking readings on his quantum-enhanced tablet. "The anomaly is growing exponentially. At this rate," a sound like reality tearing itself apart cut him off. The quantum storm pulsed, sending out a wave of distortion that rippled through the city. Buildings flickered between states of existence, their quantum signatures becoming unstable. People screamed as their own transformations fluctuated wildly. Sarah reached out with her quantum senses, trying to read the patterns in the chaos. What she found chilled her to her core. "It's not just an anomaly," she said. "It's a resonance cascade. The transformed humans, their quantum signatures are amplifying each other, creating a feedback loop." Wheeler's form pulsed with alarm. "This is what happened to my people's homeworld. The cascade that forced us to abandon physical form entirely. But your people chose to become pure quantum entities," Marcus said. "We're stuck halfway between states." "Perhaps that is the problem," Wheeler replied. "You cannot exist in both states forever. The universe demands a choice." Another wave of distortion hit, stronger this time. Sarah watched in horror as a group of transformed humans nearby began to dissolve into pure quantum patterns, their physical forms unable to maintain coherence. Their screams echoed in both normal and quantum frequencies. "We have to do something." Marcus moved to help them, but Sarah held him back. "We can't help them directly," she said, her voice breaking. "Any interaction will only accelerate the cascade." She turned to Wheeler. "You knew this could happen, didn't you? You knew the transformation wasn't stable." Wheeler's form dimmed. "We hoped your species' unique attributes would allow you to find a balance we could not. We did not anticipate the strength of the resonance between transformed humans. Your creativity, your emotional connections, they amplify the quantum effects beyond anything we've seen before." Sarah looked out at her transformed world. The quantum storm now covered most of Manhattan, and similar anomalies were being reported globally. The harmony they'd created was becoming a destructive force, tearing apart the very reality they tried to save. "What about the original quantum breakdown?" Marcus asked. "The one that brought you here in the first place." "Stabilized temporarily," Wheeler said. "Your global symphony created new patterns that reinforced the quantum fabric of spacetime. But the cost? The cost is that we've created something worse." Sarah finished. She could feel it in her own quantum structure. The growing instability, the pull toward either pure physical or pure quantum existence. The middle ground they'd found was collapsing. A new sound cut through the chaos. Music, but not the careful quantum harmonies they'd been using. This was raw, human music, played on traditional instruments by those who hadn't transformed. It came from a group of street musicians who had set up despite the evacuation orders, playing with desperate intensity. And something strange happened. Where their music reached, the quantum storm calmed. Transformed humans in the area found their forms stabilizing, anchored by the purely physical vibrations. Sarah's mind raced. "The answer isn't in finding a permanent middle ground," she said, watching the effect spread. "It's in learning to move between states naturally, like music moving between keys." "A quantum rhythm," Wheeler said, understanding dawning in their harmonic voice. "Not a sustained harmony, but a dynamic oscillation." Marcus was already running calculations on his tablet. "Like a heartbeat," he said, "or breathing. Natural cycles of quantum and physical states. But it would take incredible coordination," Sarah said. "Every transformed human would need to shift states in perfect synchronization, or the resonance cascade would tear reality apart. Then we give them something to synchronize to," Marcus said, looking at the street musicians below. "Not just quantum harmonies, but real physical music, something that speaks to the human part of them, as much as the quantum." Wheeler's form brightened. "A bridge between realities, just as you are bridges between states." Sarah felt hope for the first time since the storm began. "We need to broadcast globally. Every radio station, every speaker, every device capable of producing sound. And we need musicians, untransformed humans playing physical instruments. A counterpoint to the quantum symphony," Marcus said, already sending out alerts. "More than that," Sarah replied, watching the storm pulse with destructive power. a reminder of what we're trying to preserve. The chaos, the creativity, the imperfection that makes us human. As they rushed to implement their plan, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if they were already too late. The quantum storm was growing stronger, and similar anomalies were appearing worldwide. They had hours at most before the cascade became irreversible. The fourth movement was reaching its crescendo, and the fate of 2 species hung in the balance. As Sarah prepared to coordinate the most important performance in human history, she realized that saving humanity might require embracing the very chaos they'd been trying to control. The universe had taught them how to sing its song. Now they needed to teach it how to dance. The final movement. The world was ending in harmony. Quantum storms raged across every continent, their crystalline structures reaching into the stratosphere. Reality itself flickered like a badly tuned television, switching between physical and quantum states with increasing speed. In the eye of the Manhattan storm, Sarah Chen prepared for humanity's final performance. The resonance chamber in CERN had been transformed into a global control center, its quantum crystals now extending throughout the building like frozen lightning. Musicians from every tradition had gathered: classical orchestras, rock bands, indigenous drummers, electronic artists, all those who had resisted the quantum transformation and remained fully physical. The cascade has reached critical levels in 37 major cities. Marcus reported, his quantum form stabilized temporarily by the physical music surrounding them. We're losing people to pure quantum state every minute. Ara watched the global feeds, her heart aching. Transformed humans everywhere were either dissolving into pure quantum patterns like Wheeler's people or being torn apart by the competing forces of physical and quantum reality. The middle ground they tried to create was collapsing. Wheeler materialized beside her, their form now a complex interference pattern of both states. "My people are arriving," they said, though many fear it is too late. Through the quantum field, Sarah could sense them. Thousands of Wheeler species abandoning their self-imposed exile to join the effort. They appeared as shimmering waves of pure mathematics, their very presence causing reality to vibrate in sympathy. "It's not too late," Sarah said, more firmly than she felt. "As long as we can still make music, there's hope." The plan was simultaneously simple and impossibly complex. They would use Earth's electronic infrastructure to broadcast a carefully crafted combination of physical and quantum frequencies, a musical bridge between states. But the real power would come from the human musicians, playing with raw emotion and improvisation that no quantum algorithm could predict. "The quantum storms are interfering with traditional broadcasting," Marcus said. "We can't guarantee global coverage." "We don't need technology," Wheeler said suddenly. "We need resonance." Sarah understood immediately. The transformed humans. They're already connected through the quantum field. They can carry the signal themselves. Like a living network, Marcus added, his eyes lighting up. Each transformed person acting as both receiver and transmitter. Sarah turned to the assembled musicians. "We need you to play from your hearts," she told them. "Don't think about the quantum mathematics or the fate of reality. Just play what you feel. Let your music remind everyone what it means to be human." As the musicians prepared, Wheeler's people moved into position around the Earth, their quantum forms creating a lattice of pure mathematics in high orbit. They would amplify and structure the human music, giving it the quantum coherence it needed to stabilize reality. "There's something else," Wheeler said privately to Sarah. "A pattern we've detected in the quantum cascade. It's not just chaos, it's trying to form something new. Something neither my people nor yours have seen before." Sarah nodded. She'd sensed it too, a deeper rhythm underlying the destruction, like a heartbeat hidden beneath static. "The universe itself is trying to evolve," she said, "and it needs us to help it find its new form." The time had come. Sarah took her position at the center of the chamber, her quantum form shimmering as she prepared to conduct both physical and quantum orchestras simultaneously. Around her, musicians readied their instruments while transformed humans floated in quantum space, their forms flickering between states. "Remember," she called out. "We're not trying to force order onto chaos. We're trying to find a harmony within it. Let the music flow naturally between states, like breathing." She raised her hands, existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously, and the final movement began. It started with a single cello note, deep and resonant, purely physical. Then a violin joined, its quantum harmonics weaving through reality. A drummer began a heartbeat rhythm, while transformed humans pulsed in quantum counterpoint. Layer by layer, the music built, physical and quantum, planned and improvised, order and chaos dancing together. Through the quantum network of transformed humans, the music spread globally. Sarah felt every note, every frequency, as both conductor and conduit. She saw Velar's people responding, their mathematical patterns shifting to accommodate the human elements they had never fully understood. The quantum storms began to change. Instead of tearing reality apart, they started moving in rhythm with the music, their destructive energy transforming into complex new patterns. Transformed humans who had been losing coherence found themselves stabilizing, not in a fixed state, but in a natural oscillation between physical and quantum existence. "It's working," Marcus called out, monitoring the quantum fields. "The cascade is reconfiguring itself." But something else was happening too. The deeper pattern Velar had detected was emerging, driven by the combination of human music and quantum mathematics. Reality itself seemed to be learning to dance, finding a new way to exist that encompassed both order and chaos. Sarah felt it building toward a climax, a moment of transformation that would dwarf everything that had come before. "Everyone," she called out, her voice carrying through both physical and quantum space, "let go of your expectations. Let the music take you where it needs to go." The final crescendo hit like a supernova of sound and quantum energy. Every transformed human, every one of Velar's people, every musician and atom and wave function sang together in a harmony that transcended physical and quantum limitations. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath. And then something new was born. The quantum storms collapsed, but they didn't disappear. Instead, they transformed into permanent bridges between states, beautiful auroras of possibility that allowed consciousness to flow naturally between physical and quantum existence. Humanity hadn't just found a way to exist in both states. They had taught the universe itself how to accommodate both. As the music settled into a new pattern, Sarah looked around at what they had created. Transformed humans were learning to shift between states at will, their consciousness expanding and contracting like breathing. Velar's people were rediscovering physical sensation, no longer trapped in pure quantum existence. And everywhere, reality sparkled with new possibilities. "We did it," Marcus said, his form now stabilized in the new rhythm of existence. "We actually did it." "No," Sarah corrected him, watching as humans and Velar's people began to explore their new state of being. "We're just beginning. This isn't an ending. It's an evolution." Velar's form pulsed with joy that could be felt in both physical and quantum frequencies. "Your species truly is remarkable," they said. "You taught the universe itself how to improvise." Sarah smiled, feeling the new rhythm of reality moving through her like music. The quantum concerto had ended, but a new symphony was just beginning, one that would be played across all states of existence, in harmony with the very fabric of space and time. Above them, the quantum auroras danced to the music of a universe that had learned to embrace both mathematics and melody, order and chaos, being and becoming. Humanity had not just survived their transformation, they had transformed reality itself. And somewhere in the quantum field, Sarah could have sworn she heard the universe beginning to sing along.